Hello and welcome to this edition of The Payoff. I'm Drew Goldfarb, joined by Rick Rockwell. We're going to be diving into the world of professional wrestling, discussing storylines, ideas, and of course, potential payoffs on prop betting as well. Today, we're focused entirely on this weekend's big shows. All Elite Wrestling has Fight for the Fallen coming up on Saturday. WWE runs with Extreme Rules on Sunday. Big weekend of professional wrestling. Odds referenced here are available through Sky Bet. We'll be breaking down a handful of what should be the biggest matches or the most intriguing matches from a betting perspective. Just to get a number of these out of the way that Rick and I agree on as far as the wagers go, Kofi Kingston will retain the WWE Championship against Samoa Joe. That pays out at minus 400. Roman Reigns and The Undertaker will down Drew McIntyre and Shane O'Mac, the best in the world, Shane McMahon. That'll pay out at minus 400 as well. Drew Gulak will retain the Cruiserweight Championship against Tony Nese, paying at minus 350. And Braun Strowman will beat Bobby Lashley in their last man standing match. That has a payout of minus 163 at last check. That's what happens when you do the conversion from the fractions to American. Anyway, let's begin with the winners take all match. It is Seth Rollins and Becky Lynch at minus 400. They're taking on Baron Corbin and Lacey Evans. They are plus 275. And on the line in this match, Seth Rollins' Universal Championship and Becky Lynch's Raw Women's Championship. Rick, how do you see this one turning out?
How I see it or how I hope it will turn out?
Give us both.
Okay, well, how I see it is it'll turn out as how everybody thinks. Seth Rollins and Becky Lynch will win one way or another. One of them will get the pin. They'll keep their belts. We'll move on. We'll have the same ridiculous romantic storylines going on with two people that really are starting to become more annoying than they are entertaining, in my opinion, as a couple. Individually, they still have more entertainment value. As a couple, it feels like you're getting shoved down your throat with the latest freaking, I don't even know, celebrity gossip. I mean, WWE is going out of their way with this relationship to really market it on social media, on their television shows, on their websites. It's sickening. It's just sickening, okay? I'd rather hear more about Charlotte Flair and Andrade than Becky Lynch and Seth Rollins. With that said, what I hope would happen is I hope that one of them will get pinned so Corbin and Lacey Evans become the champs, and then it causes a big fight between the two, and they have a big breakup on television, and one of them goes away for a couple months because they're depressed, yada, yada, yada. We don't see them. The romantic storylines are over. Maybe they get revenge by coming back and causing the other person to lose if they win the title again. I would rather see that type of romantic storylines where you're getting revenge because you're heartbroken than what we have going on right now. To me, that's more entertaining. That's more soap opera-ish. Yes, it is. I agree. But it's more entertaining than what we're getting right now. I'm not excited for this match. I feel like this match has been force-fed to us. I feel like their relationship's been force-fed to us, and I feel like we're going to end up having a Roman Reigns type John Cena reaction to them sooner than later.
In a match with Baron Corbin on the other side, I don't see Becky or Seth Rollins getting that kind of reception. But I mean, I'm agree. Seth Rollins and Becky Lynch are going to retain. Baron Corbin needs a long run with a mid-title. Because it's been so long since he has been a legitimate threat to anybody with a championship. And he just keeps getting put into the major title picture. And I don't believe him. I buy Lacey Evans. And what would be interesting if it were to go the other way, I don't think it will, but what would be interesting the other way is Baron Corbin needing to have his Universal Championship protected by Lacey Evans. That would be interesting because it would basically play into who Baron Corbin is as a character right now. But Rollins and Lynch are going to win. They're the power couple in WWE. Long term, we could get a Triple H and Stephanie McMahon Helmsley power couple type situation. I think there is something that would be able to turn them, make them go power crazy, power hungry. It's a new world in WWE with Paul Heyman, Paulie Dangerously, and of course, Eric Bischoff in control of Raw and SmackDown. Rollins and Becky Lynch are going to win. I think that Corbin's there to eat the loss. Anytime he's in a championship match, with any other people, he's there to take the loss. I've seen a prop bet available that Becky Lynch would make Baron Corbin tap out. I don't know if technically that would be legal within the match. Could see Becky being the one to maybe hit a Beck Splutter suplex or something on Corbin and Rollins gets the pin for the win kind of thing. But it's Rollins and Lynch. But the reason that is, since we agreed on it, that we want to talk about this is because there is a prop bet available on this one that is the most hilarious, amazing, ridiculous, insane, brilliant, and horrible idea ever. Coming in at plus 3,300 odds is the prop bet that Brock Lesnar wins and leaves Extreme Rules with both the Universal Championship and the Raw Women's Championship in his possession. Technically, he could cash in his Money in the Bank, get added to this match and make it a triple threat, be the lone competitor on his team, and beat probably Baron Corbin to win both belts. And it would be hilarious to me. I think that if you're going with that reality era thing where you're trying to do a couple thing to try to see people who are looking for power or want to get a championship run having to walk up to Brock Lesnar, I think that him involved in a storyline like that would be really entertaining. I don't think this is happening, but this was too wild to just not bring up in this podcast because, I mean, Rick, this would be insane if Brock Lesnar left holding up the Universal Championship in one hand and the Raw Women's title with the other. The visual on that would be amazing.
Amazing. It would be absolutely amazing. Picture this. Think this. He comes out there and he F5s Becky Lynch and pins her and wins both belts. Not only does he get both belts, but then he enrages Seth Rollins even more because he just beat up his girlfriend. That would have the whole summer leading to SummerSlam. And then I would love, you know what I would love to see is a handicap match with Rollins and Lynch versus Brock Lesnar at SummerSlam. And then, you know, you can have Lesnar drop the belt to one of them because they cheat or whatever you want to do. Like, you have options. Putting the title on him by F5ing Lynch would be amazing. And Paul Heyman is the kind of guy that could do that and would do that. Whether Vince McMahon approves it or not, it's a whole nother story. But just think about it, though. Like, that would legitimately show that the WWE's headed in another direction. They're not doing the same cookie-cutter stuff outside of Bray Wyatt, the same cookie-cutter storylines or typical good guy, bad guy, chase, revenge, rematch type stuff that they do on a regular basis. You have something that's different for especially for the WWE. This would be different. Lesnar would win both belts. That's never happened. I can't think of any promotion where a guy's held both gender belts. It would be amazing, especially with Brock Lesnar, because he's already hard to believe that he could lose in a match, which makes his whole purpose of being in a match much more valuable because of his credibility of not losing. But if he has both belts, that would be incredible. I would love it. I'd be over here celebrating on our next payoff episode. I'd be going crazy. I'd have to get a Brock Lesnar shirt.
More exciting to me than a handicap match rematch for both belts would be having him defend both belts separately in the same night.
There you go. That would be incredible also.
You could have Rollins versus Lesnar open the show. Rollins, you know, if you want to have Becky come out and assist so that Seth wins, and then you could basically – I would love to see a main event of SummerSlam where it's Becky Lynch against Brock Lesnar. And that is – you want to make Becky Lynch Stone Cold Steve Austin – like full-fledged, without a doubt, have her beat Brock Lesnar, clean or otherwise, in a one-on-one match. And, I mean, it would just be it would be so unexpected. It's not going to happen. But whoever it is that, like, either requested that prop bet from Skybet to get it put up there, or if Skybet just found some reason to put it there, because, I mean, technically it could happen. I mean, man, brilliant mind. Let's move to the United States Championship match. Ricochet, the defending champ, at minus 150, taking on AJ Styles at plus 110 with the club in tow. Rick, how do you see this one turning out?
You know, I know you and I have talked about it previously, and we disagreed on it, but if you want the club to be a legit group, you can't have them lose to Ricochet. First of all, Ricochet beat both Gallows and Anderson in separate matches in the same night. Right then and there, you just crushed half of the excitement over the club being back. When a guy can beat two people in one night, like that's not good booking right there. I love Ricochet. I've been a fan of his for a long time now. I like seeing him as champ. I didn't think he was going to get it when he beat Samoa Joe, but I wanted him to get it. I like seeing him have the belt. I think he elevates the belt, and the belt elevates him. But now you have a title match at a pay-per-view with AJ Styles, who just turned heel. Him and his group are one of the main storylines on Raw. They're the main heel group on Raw. They've been closing out the show. Like, how are you going to have AJ lose now? How do you have him lose when you've built it to this point? You basically do the typical WWE garbage where you try to make people care, and then you just crush it right then and there. It's like, why care? Why buy into that? Why even care if he even wrestles a match if he's just going to lose? You can't do that. Like, if Heyman's truly in charge, if we're truly getting a new direction, AJ Styles has to win. I don't care if they cheat to win. He has to win the match. That's why I'm going with AJ Styles. In a great match. It'll be a great match.
Oh, yeah. I'm looking forward to seeing it. I don't disagree with the logic there, but you could basically almost say the same thing on the other side. Ricochet has not held the championship for long. If you want to legitimize him as being the guy who he was in NXT, you can't have him drop the belt at his first opportunity. AJ Styles, Ricochet, I mean, this screams like it could be a weird finish. It could be it would be weird at an Extreme Rules pay-per-view to have a match in a disqualification. But it's like I just at the same time that I have a hard time seeing the club lose in their first time out. I have a hard time seeing Ricochet lose in his first defense. What I could see is Ricochet winning, schoolboy roll up something, and then just get beat down, and you could basically have Styles take it off him the next time, where he just gets relentlessly destroyed. Where maybe Styles tries to beat him relatively fair, and when he gets caught in something that he feels is not the right way to win a match or whatever, a roll up, something that's a little bit cheap, not cheating, but a little cheap, that he would go after him that way and you could further it. I don't know. I don't disagree with picking Styles on it because I think that it would really help elevate the club. I think AJ Styles is a good enough competitor where they're going to be elevated because he's simply a member. And if you have them do a post-match beatdown of Ricochet, I think it serves the same purpose where the club can still look strong without having to take the belt off of Ricochet weeks into his reign.
But they've all lost to Ricochet already in the last couple of weeks. It's like, oh, it's amazing, the club's back. Oh, but they keep losing.
Someone's got to lose.
They're going to be 3MB if they keep doing that.
I mean, Heath Slater's had quite the career.
You got to feed those kids.
And Jinder Mahal went on to hold the WWE Championship after 3MB. And McIntyre's the future.
Yes.
So there are worse things than being 3MB. Quite the career for those three. Let's move on to the Raw Tag Team Championship match. The Revival, reigning champs, minus 150 to retain against the Usos, plus 110 to take the straps off of them. Rick, which way are you going?
I have flip-flopped on this match. I actually find this matchup to be boring, in my opinion. We've seen it too many times now. I don't feel like the feud has evolved enough to make it to where this match matters. I don't care about this match because they haven't given me enough of a reason to continue to care about it. All four men are talented. They are able to put on a good match when you're actually watching it, but to invest the emotion into it, there's no reason to invest it. We've seen it. I don't even know how many times we've seen them wrestle, and there seems to be no kind of clarity into the direction of either team right now. I would much prefer the Street Profits versus the Revival, or the Street Profits versus the Usos, or the Viking Raiders, Express, Warriors, whatever they're called, taking on the Usos for the tag titles or something like that. But to have the Revival and the Usos continue a feud that doesn't even feel like it's has gotten enough. Everything's been built around Shane McMahon to where this feud right here has just fallen by the side. It used to mean something, but over the last couple weeks, outside of a triple threat match or six-man match that they just had last week, like honestly, when do you remember the last time the Revival actually looked good on TV? You know, they've been the lackeys getting beat, or they joined Shane McMahon and Drew McIntyre to beat down somebody. Like, they haven't stood on their own as a legitimate team in a while. This match, I wouldn't be surprised if this match gets put on the kickoff show with the Cruiserweight match. Honestly, that's where I think WWE will end up putting it.
So who's your pick to win?
Oh, I thought I can get away with it. So I'm going to lean towards the Revival cheating to win, or getting help from McMahon or McIntyre or Elias. Some way, somehow, hook or crook, they retain the belts.
I would have to go with the Revival too. I think that it's if you want this to feel like more than the random Raw, like the Usos have to beat someone heading into a pay-per-view kind of match and feud, you've got to have the Revival retain, regardless of how they do it. I want to see this be interesting because these two teams are so talented, all four individuals, and you can't do that if the Revival are a joke champion, and you've got to have them get a legit win. I would like to see them win in a 15-minute great match where they just go over clean at the end and you get a really nice win and you can kind of go like, these guys are legit. But I take any win at this point because I think that they need to retire. The Usos don't need it. They're one of the greatest tag teams in WWE history, and that's going to be the same regardless. They're going to be a legitimate threat to anyone for a long time. The Revival needs a legitimate run to have a shot at really of being considered reasonable to get back into the title picture once they lose the belts, whenever that might be. Let's go over to SmackDown. Tag Team Championship match is a triple threat. Daniel Bryan and Rowan, the reigning champs, they are minus 138. Heavy Machinery, plus 225. And The New Day, at plus 350. So, of these three teams, Rick, who are you picking to walk out of Extreme Rules holding those blue and silver belts?
Without hesitation, get the Caterpillar ready. Heavy Machinery is winning the belts. I'm a pay-per-view off. I picked them to win it at the last one. They continued to have been elevated. They've continued to put on entertaining matches. That triple threat match that we just had on SmackDown with Bryan and Xavier Woods and stuff, that was a great match. Like, they made Otis look like a powerhouse. And they had a smart match. They had the right guy win. It boosted them even more. And now you have a triple threat tag team match here where you don't have someone that is going to win cleanly over basically a team on team. That's why you have the triple threats, because it makes it look like, okay, well, if the champs lose, they don't look too weak because they were taking on two teams. And you can even have the two teams, Heavy Machinery pin the New Day, and use that whole excuse that the champs didn't get pinned. With that said, it's time for and I said this before, Daniel Bryan needs to go back up to the world title picture. Heavy Machinery needs to be the tag champs. We need to have new blood, new feuds going on with the tag teams. Bryan and Rowan were nice for a bit to hold the division down or make it a little more steady or a little more relevant. But you need more blood, new blood. You need more talent infused into this. And the way to do that is to have a fresh face as the tag team with fresh feuds going on and bringing a little more excitement instead of the same teams doing the same thing over and over. I'm taking Heavy Machinery. I'm going to be doing my Caterpillar, watching that match. I'm actually pretty excited about this match, unlike the last one we just talked about.
Yeah, I agree with you. I think the Heavy Machinery is a fun team. They're fun to watch in the ring, away from the ring. They're different. Of the teams that we've talked about, the 5 teams that are competing for a tag team championship, they're the ones who are the most fresh. The Revival has been, hampered by so much booking over the years. The Usos are amazing. They've been around forever. The New Day is amazing. They've been around forever. Daniel Bryan has won tag team championships for years. Rowan has won it with Harper, now with Bryan. I do like them. I think they make a great, heel group. But I mean, heavy machinery. It's time. I want to see it. It's they've got something exciting. Plus, I needed to pick a championship to change hands on the show. So that's my belt that's changing hands for this show, because I know we disagree on this one. The SmackDown Women's Championship handicap match, Bayley, the champion, minus 300 odds to retain, taking on the team of Alexa Bliss and Nikki Cross at plus 225. Nikki Cross beat Bayley clean in a match that allowed Nikki to determine what stipulation Alexa's match with Bayley would have for Extreme Rules. She picked being on Alexa Bliss's team. So we disagree on this one because I've got Bayley, you've got Bliss and Cross. Why don't you go first, and why do you have Alexa and Nikki picking up the win?
We've had this storyline being built up for the last couple months now. So Bayley has had the belt for basically 2 months. She served her purpose as the champ. People are more entertained by Nikki Cross and Alexa Bliss as a duo than they are as Bayley as an individual. I look at it this way. All rumors and stuff are pointing towards Sasha Banks to return, most likely to help Bayley in some degree. In my opinion, if she's not going to be involved in the actual match as a partner, it'd make more sense to have her save Bayley in a post-match beatdown than it would to come out there and somehow distract or interfere. To me, I've seen that done way too many times. You have two opponents versus one. And Bayley individually is not better than Alexa Bliss. And it drives me crazy that she keeps getting the better of Bliss. It drives me crazy. Like, Alexa Bliss is a goddess for a reason, okay? Bayley is not. She's a hugger. She's probably a tree hugger. She's probably, I don't even know, whatever type of hugger you can think of, right? That's what she is. She's a hugger. I want to see Cross and Bliss win. I think they should win. I'm picking them to win. I think we need something to change it up just a little bit. I think if Sasha Banks returns, you can have a nice little feud there. You can even have a tag team feud going. And then you can have Bayley and Banks go back after the tag belts that they should have never lost in the first place. That's why I'm kind of looking at it as a bigger picture and saying, I think it would be more successful and do more for the SmackDown Blue brand if Bayley lost than keeping her with the belt. She should not be champion for a long period of time. Like, she served her purpose as a transitional champ. Put it on Cross or Bliss. Have that whole dynamic go on further. It's much more entertaining than Bayley being the champ.
This has been one of the tougher ones for me to pick that we're going through, because in theory it should be Bliss and Cross because they literally have a 2-on-1 advantage. And it doesn't matter which one of them pins Bayley because it's Bliss's match. I believe is what stipulation because that was a bit confusing for a second. Usually when you see a 2-on-1 with one title on the line, David Arquette becomes WCW heavyweight champion. But is that still a sore memory from 20 years ago?
Terrible.
But Sasha Banks is a bit of a wild card, not just because she could help Bayley win or she could save Bayley from a post-match beatdown, but she could also help Bayley lose.
Exactly.
So,
you're right. That's a great point right there. And now you have a heated feud between the two. Banks and Bayley could end up feuding against each other in a different dynamic than when they did previously, when they had a feud before they became a tag team. That in itself is another reason why you should pick Bliss and Cross. And one more thing, you just made me think of this, and I got to get it off my chest. The whole thing with Bliss and Cross is to eventually have Cross and Bliss fight each other, and Cross gets elevated up as an individual wrestler. She's being built that way. This whole storyline is to build her up. To have them lose at this point to Bayley crushes that. Like, it defeats that purpose. However, if Nikki Cross gets the pin and then she hands the belt to Bliss, that furthers that angle. That's kind of another reason why I'm picking it. I'm going with Bliss and Cross. I want the belt off Bayley. Get it off her.
So the other thing I could see, though, is if Sasha were to interfere and were to turn on Bayley, because, we've seen that 1,000 times, is there's the two approaches. There's the I'm going to cost you this because you abandoned me kind of deal. Or there is the I'm not going to let Alexa take this belt off of you because I'm going to take it off of you.
Yeah.
Which would be that, she could help Bayley. She gets the return. You get the nice reaction, the hug, and then, the segment ending clothesline or, at a bank statement kind of deal. See, now I'm torn again. And I changed on one of them when you made an argument last time, and I got that one wrong. But you know what? I mean, Bayley. See, here's the thing too, though. Bayley's at minus 300. I don't know that I would take that bet. I don't know that if I'm putting my money out there that I'm betting Bayley minus 300 to retain because it's wrestling and with all the Banks rumors, and you never know which side she's going to go on. So
come to my side. Come to my side.
I am going to say Bliss and Cross.
There you go.
Because I would not bet on Bayley.
Yes.
I would not take minus 300 odds on Bayley. There's too many wild cards in the situation. She's going up against two. Sasha Banks could be anywhere and could be on either side of things.
Yes.
So I'm going to take Bliss and Cross. I wasn't going to originally. That was highlighted in yellow. I was originally going Bayley.
I'm so defeated by changing your mind.
If I get wrong on this one, my whoops next week for the podcast will be Rick had a whoops, and I made the mistake of following him. But hopefully,
made the whoops worse.
Exactly. Hopefully, we'll each get a payoff at plus 225 odds in that case. And I do agree with you. The storyline would make so much more sense if Nikki pins Bayley, Bliss becomes champion, and eventually it leads to Nikki Cross is clearly the better of the two. They could square off for the title. Makes that feud mean a lot more. Let's close it out with a singles match. Aleister Black finally had his challenge answered. He's minus 400 in this match, taking on the Swift Cyborg Cesaro, because if you remember that came up when he lost his teeth. Plus 275 for Cesaro to beat Aleister Black. I'll let you know what, I'm going to go first on this one because I'm picking Cesaro, and I think you're on the other side, so I'm going to see if I can bring you to my side with this one. The reason I'm picking Cesaro is because he waited so long to answer the challenge. Aleister Black has been trying to get an opponent, and Cesaro comes out. He is now in singles action again. Cesaro is this is going to be an incredible match because it's Cesaro and it's Aleister Black. They're both fantastic in the ring. And I think that if Cesaro is going to be a singles competitor again, you've got to have him win. He basically was able to take his time. He was able to come out on this one. He's been wrestling, and obviously with Sheamus, and he's been wrestling before that. He had Tyson Kidd. So I think that Cesaro stands a lot more to gain out of this. It's almost the reverse of Ricochet versus AJ Styles, where I think that in this case, Aleister Black is the one who doesn't need this round one win over the more seasoned veteran opponent. I think Cesaro winning makes this a feud that can hold them over, where you can have really exciting matches and end up with both of these guys getting elevated. I think if Aleister Black ends up winning, which based on the odds is the obvious thing at minus 400, it doesn't really do anything because it basically goes like, oh yeah, Cesaro, oh yeah, he's back, whatever, and Black moves on to the next. I think if Cesaro wins, he proves to be a good challenge for Aleister Black, and you can go in one of two directions. Either Cesaro can eventually get his new tag team partner, where you'd have Black and Cesaro, because that's actually how Sheamus and Cesaro started, or it just becomes a really good feud where it elevates both parties. I don't think that Black beating Cesaro does that. This is not Aleister Black facing Velveteen Dream at an NXT TakeOver where Black was able to win and say Dream's name and get him as over as he would have been if he had won. This is a situation where if Cesaro can pick up the win, he proves himself to Aleister Black, either extending the feud or maybe proving himself worthy of Aleister Black. Because Sheamus and Cesaro made no sense as a tag team, but Aleister Black and Cesaro would make just as little sense as a tag team, but they would be so good together in the ring, the technician and the striker, the strength of Cesaro, and just the incredible output of Aleister Black. If you're looking for new blood in the tag team division, that's the way I go, but you can't start any of that if Aleister Black wins the match. You can if Cesaro wins. It's the storyline-wise, long-term-wise, if this isn't just a little passing fling so Aleister Black can beat someone in a pay-per-view, Cesaro winning is the only one that makes sense. So I'll let you go now. Did I win you over?
Almost.
Oh, okay.
Almost.
Worth a shot.
I just, I love Cesaro. I'm a huge fan of Cesaro. I love his in-ring work. Extremely talented. And I wish he was going to win. I do wish he would win. Unfortunately, I don't even know how long now we've had these promos with Aleister Black to whatever stuff he would be jibber-jabbering about week after week after week on SmackDown, and then to find him an opponent and stuff. I think one of the reasons WWE picks Cesaro is because he's believable enough to win and credible enough to add to Black when Black wins. I don't think they invest all this time into his promos just to have him lose his first match. I think, if anything, and here's another thing too, WWE is notorious, absolutely notorious for having an immediate rematch from a pay-per-view. We could see an immediate rematch on SmackDown and see Cesaro win. And then there goes your feud. Ricochet beat Cesaro after Cesaro won the first match. Ricochet wins the second one, and they had a nice little feud, and it bumped them both up. I don't see Cesaro getting the first one out of this one. I can see a feud with him. I can even see your whole vision of a tag team down the road. All of those are good possibilities. But I think WWE is putting a lot of stock into Aleister Black. Otherwise, they would have just let him, wrestle and become semi-irrelevant on SmackDown. They've kept him off air. They're building him up. They kind of repackaged him a little bit, or maybe emphasize more of what he was in NXT. He needs somebody like Cesaro to have a great match for this big singles build-up match. I got to go with Black here. I just think it would look silly if WWE has him lose right away after what they're trying to invest into him and trying to build him up. I would love to see a feud between these two. Honestly, in a perfect situation, you would have either a double DQ, a count out, or a draw, a time limit draw. That would extend this feud and make it even more meaningful. Unfortunately, WWE has forgotten to do stuff like that, which the wrestling business was built on for decades. You have your 60-minute Broadways with Ric Flair. Now you don't even have a 15-minute time limit. I don't even remember the last time we've had a TV time limit match expire. So I'm going with Black. I love Cesaro. I want to see Cesaro win. I wouldn't even bet on this match because of the odds, but I'm taking Black.
Yeah, I mean, the logic makes sense, I think, on either side, that you can elevate Aleister Black and just make him instantly bigger by beating Cesaro and legitimizing his threats. I love the idea of the two of them just brawling to the backstage area and getting counted out, like just doing something along those lines. I just think, like, if Cesaro were to beat Aleister Black and take the darkness that he always promotes around him and make it to the evil side of things, Heavy Machinery versus Cesaro and Black as a program, maybe not immediately because you'd probably get some kind of rematch from one of the teams involved, whoever doesn't eat the pin in that triple threat. But I think that they're kind of that odd pairing that I think would work because of their difference in styles. But we will see. I'm really looking forward to just watching the in-ring for that match. That's just so good. So that is going to be it for Extreme Rules. There are no odds posted at the time of recording for this weekend's Fight for the Fallen in Jacksonville, Florida. The third show run by All Elite Wrestling, the first that they ever promoted, and also the second one that they're broadcasting for free, that's cool if you want to be able to watch it. You don't have to pay for it if you're in the U.S. and Canada. They're charging something like $15 American if you're watching from the UK or elsewhere. Anyway, we're going to do three picks for three matches in this one. We're beginning with a tag team match between all of the CEOs, CFOs, and managing partners of AEW. The Young Bucks on one side, Cody Rhodes on the other, teaming up with his brother Dustin. Of course, this match was promoted at the end of Double or Nothing, at the end of the match that Cody had against Dustin, where Cody won. He asked Dustin, a very, very bloody Dustin Rhodes, to be his tag partner. They hugged. It was beautiful. I predicted that exact thing would happen with the hug. And now they're facing the Young Bucks in a match that Cody knew that he was taking a match with the Young Bucks and just needed to find a partner, found a brother. So is it the Young Bucks or is it the Rhodeses? Who picks up the win in this tag match, Rick?
Well, what I want and what I hope for and what I think will happen are, once again, two different things. I think the perfect scenario or outcome for this match is not going to happen. But if I was booking it, perfect scenario would be to have the Young Bucks and Cody turn on Dustin Rhodes. And obviously their affiliation comes through in this match. And they beat the living crap out of Dustin Rhodes, who's not going to be like, that's a terrible thing to do to your brother, you know? That would catapult Cody further with the AEW as one of the top heels. The Young Bucks will be right with them. Everybody already knows they're the executive vice whatever producers their titles are, yada, yada, yada. But Dustin Rhodes would see a resurgence as a babyface. You know, he had a phenomenal match with Cody. He's got another run in him. He might play both sides of the fence in terms of whether or not how much he's gonna wrestle. He's got another run in him. He proved that in that match with Cody. If you have Cody turn on him after everything, that is vintage, old school heel right there. That would be amazing. I'm picking the Rhodes to win, but that's what I want to see happen. The Young Bucks continue to win, and they continue to look like one of the best tag teams. But I feel the best outcome, other than the scenario I just laid out, is to have the Rhodes brothers win this match. And I would like to see Dustin Rhodes pick up the pinfall if possible. So I'm going Rhodes brothers. Make Dusty proud.
I'm also picking the Rhodes for this one. I think I really like that idea that basically you could reform just the Young Bucks and Cody together, evil as can be. Dustin is a very sympathetic character because you never know when he's going to have his last match at this point. Could be this one. It could have been Cody Dustin. I think a lot of people thought it was going to be Cody versus Dustin, and then he closes out the segment by asking Dustin to be his tag partner for this match. So he is going to be, whenever he does go out, I'm sure that it's going to be with Cody turning on him at some point. I think, though, that what works against that happening here is doing that can be done so much better once they have weekly television. I think that holding off on the turn for when you can have Cody and the Bucks torment Dustin Rhodes week after week after week makes a whole lot more sense than to have them laughing and joking on a YouTube series about it with no in-ring matches coming up for a month and a half. I think that it is much more reasonable when you have weekly TV, whenever that gets started later on in the year. You could do it at All Out in Chicago. It's Labor Day weekend. It'll be close enough to the start of TV whenever they do actually start their show. But I got to think the Rhodeses win. I think that what you said is what it eventually gets to, where Cody turning on Dustin creates a mega baby face and a mega heel group. And that's, I think, what you do, because I think you need to build it a bit more. Yeah, they had the amazing match, but to have another one where the four could shake hands after it's done, regardless of who wins, and really enjoy it. And then you spend a few more shows where you're putting it to the point you're building the animosity. I would have Cody win, because you want the turn to be, you were never as good as me. I always carried you. I beat you one-on-one. You never won any of our matches. You took the pinfall in this one or that one. That's how I would do it. Cody should win. Dustin should help him get the pin. but should never be the one to record it because you want Cody to have that and Dustin to be able to prove his worth as a singles competitor after that. So we agree on that one. Let's move on to the first of two singles matches we're going to discuss. That is Kenny Omega taking on Cima. So who is your pick for this match? Kenny Omega obviously coming off of a big loss at Double or Nothing in their first one. They had Fyter Fest too, but
it has to be Omega. It's pointless to see him lose another pay-per-view match. I would love to see Moxley get involved, so that keeps the fire burning towards their match coming up next month. But for this particular matchup, first of all, if odds do come out, I would imagine Omega is a big favorite. I would think in the tag match it'd be closer in odds, but this one, Omega has to be a big favorite. And same with the next match we talk about. You would have big, clear-cut favorites. Omega has to win here. He has to come off looking strong, hit his signature spots, whatever you want to do to make him look like he is one of the best in the business and definitely one of the faces of the company. I would love to see Moxley get involved or at least appear and fake like he's getting involved or get involved and beat Omega afterwards with a kendo stick or whatever other extreme stuff that he wants to do because that's what he's pretty good at, actually, all over the world. But you have to go Omega. There's no doubt about it.
Totally. I mean, it's got to be Kenny Omega. He's got to pick up the win. In an organization that claims wins and losses are going to matter, you cannot have a guy who should be your top one starting off 0-2 in big stage matches. And I'm not – Fyter Fest, I never thought had the build that this one did because this was – Fight for the Fallen was the first show they announced. This was the announcement in Jacksonville where they countered Raw or SmackDown that was going on live in Jacksonville that day. They announced the formation of AEW. They debuted Chris Jericho. They announced all of these things. They announced Fight for the Fallen. I don't think they had a title yet, but they said they were going to have a major event in Jacksonville. They were not talking about Fyter Fest. They were talking about Fight for the Fallen. So I'm counting Fyter Fest as basically TV because that's essentially what it was. But this is Kenny Omega cannot start off 0-2 in major matches. He's got to pick up the win. And I think that we're going to be saying the same thing for the singles match that we're wrapping this up with, which is Hangman Page against Kip Sabian. It's got to be Page. He's fighting for the AEW championship at the next major event in Chicago, All Out. Jericho is scheduled to appear, so unless there's some kind of interference, but even then, I cannot see Page losing this match.
You know, and so like we were just talking about, I mean, it would be great if Moxley showed up. If they hold him off, that makes sense too because it'd make it even bigger than the next one. But Jericho has to show up, and Jericho has to interfere in this match. He's got to get that feud boiling more now. I know it's a match for the belt and stuff, and in that in itself brings interest and brings some validity or prestige to the match. But you also got to give people a reason to invest emotion into it. That's part of pro wrestling. You suspend reality because you're investing your emotions into the storylines that are going on. Jericho needs to get involved in this. I would prefer to see Jericho come out and cost Page the match. I think that would instantly give more fire to the feud. Page wants to get revenge, whatever, da-da-da-da-da. But Jericho being there is a must. You said he's scheduled to appear. The best way to have him appear is to interfere in the match, cost Page the victory. Like you said, victories do matter, are supposed to matter, win losses. You know, Jericho could get Page that loss or that one in the L column. It gets the feud going more because right now, you know, other than diehard AEW fans, casual fans, they're thinking, why should we really care about this match much? Like, why do we care about Page at all, first of all? You know? Second of all, we all know who Jericho is, so a lot of mainstream or casual people are thinking, well, Jericho should just win this match. But if you give people a reason to think, okay, now Page has more incentive, or, oh, he just cheated Page, he caused Page a match, Page is going to get his revenge. That typical tried and true philosophy could work here. I want to see that. Whether it happens or not is a different story. Betting-wise, you got to go with Paige. Although, I would love to see that Jericho cost him the match. I mean, that would legit cost him. He gets pinned because of it.
I don't want to see that. And it goes back to the fact that there's no TV yet. I don't know that a storyline like that works when the next time they're going to stand next to each other is just before the bell rings in the championship match. I don't. In addition to that, Sabian in a group where wins and losses matter, how is it then not a triple threat match? Well, if there was weekly TV and you did that, you would have Sabian lobbying to the powers that be or whatever to be placed in the championship match because technically he didn't lose at the last special event, BR Live, whatever they want to call it, because it's not a pay-per-view. But I don't think it works when you don't have weekly TV where you don't have time to flesh it out further than that. I don't think you need to have Jericho cost Paige the match because, like you said, the casual viewer is watching a Chris Jericho championship match. The whole purpose of that is that when they then watch it, they will see who Hangman Page is. I don't think that having Jericho cost him makes Hangman Page any more intriguing to a viewer who doesn't know who he is. I think that that's really the reality of it. I also am not sure that before it has weekly television, they're really going to build beyond the core audience too much. I don't know who is going to be like, oh, I heard there's a wrestling show on BR Live on Saturday night. We should watch it if they're not a deep enough wrestling fan to be following along with AEW's progression. And beyond that is I don't think that it helps. I think that when you have weekly TV, it helps. It can be one of those things where it's like I have a reason to go after him. They're crowning the first champion. Jericho is the name to be involved. Paige is the name they want to build. That's the whole purpose of it. I think that I unless you're trying to make it a triple threat, which I think would be a mistake, I think that the problem with doing that is it's also a page from WWE's playbook. That is something that WWE has done forever, where it is that the bad guy costs his soon-to-be opponent a big match that was really important to him, usually like closing out a Raw or SmackDown, and, he's going to get it. I don't know that AEW should go to that. As I said to you when I watched Double or Nothing, some of the things that they did that were a little too gimmicky, that were a little too WWE-like for my liking. Like, if you're looking for an alternative, make it a sport. Don't do it. And I know that that they refer to the Dusty finish because of Dusty Rhodes. But make it clean, make it competitive. You could have Kip look great, but just have it end and be that way. When you get TV, you can worry about those storylines. I don't think you can do it when there's going to be 45 days of nothing.
Well, they put a lot of stock in their YouTube channel. And if you want to get more eyes on your YouTube channel, give them a reason to do that.
But I don't think you're gaining anybody through, that's the thing, is that until you were on a medium where someone flipping through channels goes, I didn't realize that there was another, this isn't WWE, what's happening? What is this? And falls in love with it, as I did with ECW growing up. Just randomly coming across the channel, not realizing that there was something other than WWE and WCW. Until that happens, what wrestling fan is not big enough is not involved enough, invested enough into wrestling to know that there is an AEW show on Saturday that is going to come across the BR Live broadcast?
But why would anybody care about that match in the first place? Hangman Page. Why do you even care about that match?
Because you're a wrestling fan. AEW is not catering to yet, is trying to make sure that its core audience, or at least they should be, is trying to make sure that its core audience is happy, and by the time they launch, they have an ECW crowd for every
And
TV.
their core audience follows their YouTube channel.
Right. But you're not gaining people, and I don't think that I don't know that it really makes sense to do anything other than to just have Hangman win, and
We'll see what Jericho does then, all right? We'll see what he does. I'm going to send him a tweet. I'm going to tell him what I think he needs to do, and we'll see if he does it.
I mean, best of luck to you on that. But you know what? It's one of those things. It's I'm hopeful that AEW will do something that's a little different too. And if one of the things they promoted from the very beginning was wins and losses matter, and that would mean that even if you get cheated out of a win, it's supposed to matter. And you could say that yes, if that happens, that would mean that gives more levity or gravity to their championship match because the loss matters to Hangman Page. But at the same token, you could go, means Kip Sabian got a win over one of the two competitors in the championship match. Why wouldn't he be entered? He has a win a month more recently than Hangman Page does. Why wouldn't he have it? Why wouldn't it be a triple threat? If wins and losses matter, how is beating someone who is in the championship match not worthy of getting you a spot in that championship match? And if you don't have TV to play it out, I don't think they're going to broadcast a legitimate wrestling match, but a rematch between Page and Sabian on their YouTube channel to see if Sabian gets added. If that's in the plans, then great. You can have it cost him, and
I think that would be a great idea if they did something like that.
But are they going to put the production into it? If they do, great. And you could ban Jericho from the building if even so much as his music plays, he loses his spot in the championship match and it becomes Page versus Kip. You could do something like that. But I don't know that without TV, I don't know that they're going to be able to put that kind of production into. I don't think they're going to be able to do that. I don't. That's kind of what it comes down to, and it would be dumb to basically do that and then leave Kip in a position where he can't even capitalize on it in the ring for 2 months.
He can be the next contender after they crown a champ. He's hurt. You can come up with anything in wrestling.
Of course. And I think there are better things to come up with. I think there are more unique things to come up with. I think Jericho should do it. I don't want to see the maybe I'm putting too much stock into the fact that AEW promoted itself as where wins and losses matter, and it was going to put the sport back into sports entertainment and make it wrestling again, where everything counted and everything had gravity attached to it. Maybe I'm putting too much stock into that, and it should just be that I should go, you know what, it's wrestling. They're going to make it more WCW, but they're still going to have the craziness and the kookiness, and they're still going to do sports entertainment.
I think after the first show we saw, the Double or Nothing, I feel like it went more towards wrestling than it did about that whole sports element. But, I mean, we'll see. Like, TV will dictate what happens with the company.
Yeah. I think that's where, I think that's where they can start doing more of this. I think that, the Double or Nothing All Out, the reason that All Out sold out as quickly as it did and the tickets are going for like triple what they were selling them for is because they had wrestling fans wanting to go. That they had people who were just like, no, I don't care. I know that these are going to be some of the greatest wrestlers in the world. They're going to be putting on wrestling matches, and I want to see that. And I think that is what they would be best served in giving them, because the hope is that at that point that someone can get a friend who was on the fringe or maybe occasionally watches something if their friend invites them over to watch a pay-per-view for WWE or a network special to get them involved, is to get the core base of AEW as fired up as possible. And I think that when you do legitimate stuff and you go, Hangman Page is the greatest thing. He did this at Double or Nothing. He did this in a really great match against Kip Sabian. You should totally watch that because Kip's going to be special, but Hangman's really good. And he's going to take on Chris Jericho. And Frank goes, oh yeah, Chris Jericho. I remember him. I like watching him. He's in AEW. And they go, yeah. I think that's your best approach on it. I told you that some of the stuff that AEW did at Double or Nothing had me very disappointed in some of the directions that they took. The fact that Cody printed up a T-shirt with him doing that stupid smashing of the throne thing. That is my lasting image. And the more that they do that is gimmicky, that is stuff that if it happened at Extreme Rules this weekend, fans would go, that was stupid. Why do you waste that? The more they do stuff like that, the less interested I am by the time the TV product turns around or rolls around, because, it's the Ambrose Asylum match. Like, how much flack did that get? And it was a cage match between two guys now in AEW who are amazing competitors, but it was because it was like they over-gimmicked it, they overthought it. It was Jericho and Ambrose. All you need is the cage. And if they want to hide thumbtacks in a corner because, holy crap, that spot was amazing, go for it. But they overthought it, and they overbooked it, and they overdid it, and that was why that got so much flack. You're getting two amazing wrestlers head-to-head in an organization that is supposed to be about wrestling. Do the wrestling. Stop with the gimmick stuff, because you don't have the budget to, it feels much more like, when John Cena spray painted something stupid phrase on JBL's limo or something like that, or on on Randy Orton's NASCAR vehicle or whatever. It felt more like that, seeing the throne get smashed by Cody Rhodes, than Stone Cold Steve Austin filling Vince McMahon's Corvette with concrete. If you're going to do it, you better put the budget behind it. And you better do it in a way that no one has ever seen it done to that extent before. So I don't know that you could do that with booking a finish that way for Paige and Sabian that involves Jericho. I'm not the greatest wrestling mind around. I'm not Cody. I'm not the Young Bucks. I don't have their skills or their abilities. If anyone can think of it, they are certainly 3 of the 10 I would pitch that to. Cornette might be able to do something like that. Bischoff might be able to pull off something like that. Maybe Jim Ross, who's involved in AEW as well as a broadcaster. Definitely Paul Heyman. Vince McMahon still gets ideas like that now and again, and he had plenty in the Attitude Era. And even if you want to bring up a name that we probably shouldn't mention in a wrestling podcast at risk of getting hate mail constantly, the guy who ruined WCW at the end, but had a few good ideas for the Attitude Era. That's really what it comes down to, is do what you can do best now and wait to do that stuff until the TV comes out, where you can pay it off in 2 days or in 3 days' time. Don't do the gimmicky stuff until you've got the budget and you've got the means to broadcast it out to a wider audience. As much as the internet is obviously worldwide, you still need TV for the casual fan. Give us great wrestling, and that was what will have me the most excited about seeing AEW's next thing. When you give me stuff that is going to be stuff that WWE does, probably does with a bigger budget, and probably does a little bit better because they've been doing it for 40 years, there's no reason for me to be as pumped about the next thing. Give me something different, and doing a straight wrestling match would be that. If you want to, I know I ranted for 10 minutes there, so if you want to counter it, go for it. Otherwise,
you know what? I'm going to let you have the last word on this.
I appreciate that. Well, this has been The Payoff. We're going to have plenty more in the weeks to come as we discuss storylines as they develop, random wrestling rants like that last one. Please, AEW, do something different. Don't try to be WWE, because you're not going to be WWE. And, of course, we'll bring you available betting lines for pay-per-views. I'm Drew Goldfarb. He's Rick Rockwell. Enjoy a great weekend of wrestling and sports entertainment. Thank you for watching, and we'll see you next time.